I came home from the first week of my desk job, sat alone in my office, and I cried. That cubicle was not my dream. My dream was making indie games. Even worse, 3 years had passed since I started a side project. It was this game called Pinstripe, and I'd worked on it completely solo, and I felt like I had made zero progress. Making games solo felt like a pipe dream. But was it? Or was making profitable indie games actually possible? I've heard doctors say it's easy to care for loved ones, but not so easy to care for ourselves. And I think the same is true for making indie games solo. You're the only one making decisions, and so you're more likely going to make careless decisions that consistently push the game from being complete. It's like a never-ending treadmill. One day you're happy with your game, and the next day you make dumb decisions that push the deadline by several months. And this all adds up very fast. And when I was working on Pinstripe, I changed the story about 3 different times. Initially, the game was about some guy in a snowy hotel with his wife. Then 1 year later, I felt the need to change the name to Project Dixie. I have no idea why I did that. And I completely changed the character design to a boy looking for his mom. And then I scrapped that several months later and made it a story about a minister in hell looking for his daughter. I also distinctly remember focusing on the logo for weeks. I changed it about 4 different times, and the art style for the game was a never-ending mix of changes. The mechanics and the levels and the music. This is one of like 6 or 7 songs that I wrote that I didn't even use. It was honestly a nightmare. Nobody was there to stop me from sabotaging my own project. And by the way, I did want to let you know that I have a free 3D course below on how you can make a 3D game very quickly. It's totally free. Just click the link below. If you want to make a 2D game, you can download my free 2D game kit, which I used to make a game for PewDiePie in 14 days. And if you're more into the marketing side of things, there's a webinar below on how to secure 6 figures in funding with just a demo. All 3 of these are totally free. I want to see you guys succeed, so it's my gift to you. On top of this self-induced psychological warfare, there are about 20 different jobs that I had to master to create my own game solo. I was the C# coder, the Photoshop 2D artist, or maybe in your case, a 3D modeler, a musician, a sound designer, a level designer, a storyteller, a QA department head, a beta tester, a marketing executive, a social media manager, a personal assistant, an accountant. This is a massive workload. Maybe you're a student or a full-time employee, a boyfriend, girlfriend, or a husband, or a wife, or a parent. Whoever you are, finding time to make games while you're those things feels impossible. And for me, I had to wake up really early before work to work on Pinstripe. I had to work on it through my lunch break, and then also in the evenings. All of this is a recipe for burnout. It's a recipe for half-made projects tossed in the trash. And that's what 90% of solo developers are going to do. Three years after forcing myself to power through this ever-changing house of cards, I excitedly submitted a patchwork demo of Pinstripe to IGF, one of the top indie game festivals. The hope was that, despite the game making $0, that I'd be accepted into a festival, and then I'd know I was on the right path. A few months passed, and I consistently checked my email, waiting for that acceptance letter. And then it hit, an email from IGF. I looked over my shoulder for my boss, I opened up my email, and my heart sank. Not only did my game get rejected, the gameplay was just absolutely frustrating. Even worse, I received a negative performance review from my boss, so I went home, I sat in the kitchen in the dark, and honestly, I just screamed into a pillow. See, there's a dozen reasons why, looking back, I kind of built my own prison with this solo project. It didn't have to be this way, and it doesn't have to be that way for you either. Firstly, I know that I just cared way too much about this game. It was my identity. To avoid this, I eventually put together a milestone document, and I tried my best to stick to it. I even printed out the milestone checklist, put it on my refrigerator, and I asked an accountability partner, which was my wife, to co-sign it with me. And you can do the same with a friend or family member. I mean, it sucks having a family member promise to breathe down your neck if you don't stick to your plan, but it sucks way less than constantly pushing your game's deadline due to unnecessary changes. Secondly, because I cared too much about this game and made it all about me, I did everything. The code, the art, the music, the story. I was a solo developer, after all. I was even in a Unity documentary during the production, and I basically just painted myself into a corner as a solo developer. Just because you make a game solo doesn't mean you have to do it all by yourself. Let me say that again. Just because you make a game solo doesn't mean you do it all by yourself. Instead, it's totally fine to use the Unity Asset Store or TurboSquid, or you can even hire contract work from Fiverr. Or if you need music, use Epidemic Sound or Pond5, or Noun Project if you want to use icons for your UI. So maybe you suck at code. Use the Unity Asset Store to purchase entire templates like the FPS templates or procedural dungeon generators. What about 2D or 3D art? Is that not your thing? There's plenty of cheap assets at craftpicks.net, or perhaps you just suck at marketing your game. But maybe you want to secure 10,000 wish lists before you launch your game, and by the way, I do recommend that. Maybe send your demo off to a publisher and see if they want to partner with you to build some hype around the launch and get those wish lists. The developer who tries to reinvent everything by themselves is going to be outsmarted and outpaced by the developer who utilizes assets. After being humbled by IGF, I considered submitting Pinstripe to smaller festivals. I found a festival called the Whippering Cup. I was accepted, and for some reason I just felt the urge to use my savings to fly out to San Francisco to be a part of this tiny festival. I mean, I honestly hated this kind of stuff, and I really still do, but I just felt like I should go for some reason. At the festival, I met Nathaniel Weiss. He's the creator of Songbringer. He told me about indie game funding and crowdfunding. Immediately after arriving home, he helped me build up the confidence to create my first Kickstarter campaign. In the basement of my desk job during my lunch break, I launched my campaign. And within the first hour, I had raised over $7,000. After 24 hours, $28,000. And after 30 days, $100,000. And because of that, I was able to go full-time as a solo developer. Because of the campaign's exposure, I was able to partner with a publisher, Armor Games, and they bore a lot of the marketing burden. And then I built my second game with a publisher called Serenity Forge. And then I signed a deal with Apple Arcade. And I made a game for PewDiePie. And I built this thriving YouTube channel. And I'm currently managing a team of developers for my third game, which is a first-person shooter. So yes, it's totally possible to make a game solo, and it doesn't have to suck like it did for me. Instead, I beg you to not take yourself so seriously, to stick to a schedule or a milestone checklist, and to not feel guilty about using assets to speed up the process. Ultimately, with the right demo and the pitch deck, you can secure 6 figures in funding from publishers and investors, or do a Kickstarter campaign, and it's going to help you go full-time and finish your game strong as a solo developer. Okay, so I hope this video was helpful to you, and if you want to see more indie game development videos like this, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And just remember about that 2D game kit below. There's also a 3D course and also a webinar on how to secure 6 figures in funding before you even finish your game. All 3 of these are totally free. Click below and check them out. I'll talk to you later. Cheers.